This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. As the days get shorter and colder, it can really take a toll on how we feel. Maybe that means calling your grandma, writing a letter to your friend, finally grabbing lunch with someone you haven't seen in a while. And just like reaching out to a friend, starting therapy can take a bit of courage. BetterHelp makes it easy to start therapy. You'll be matched with a licensed therapist based on your needs and preferences so you can focus on your growth and goals. Not happy with your match? You can switch therapists anytime with no hassle. This month, don't wait to reach out, whether that's checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself. BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. And our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PFF. That's betterhelp.com/PFF. BYU at Texas Tech. You'll notice right there we don't have rankings on the bottom of the screen. That's because we're recording this show before the College Football Playoff Committee announces their first rankings. And Dalton, I'll tell you right now, this should be a top 10 game. Both these teams should be ranked in the top 10 tonight. We'll see where they are. This game's at noon Eastern time on ABC. The two best teams in the Big 12 are squaring off in this one. Right now, Texas Tech is minus 170 to win the Big 12 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. BYU is plus 320 to win the conference right now. The next closest team is Cincinnati, who has plus 850 odds to win the Big 12. So they're easily, by far, the two favorites to win the conference right now. The winner of this game has a great chance at reaching the Big 12 title game in Dallas next month. BYU also looks to remain as one of the four undefeated teams in college football.
For BYU, it's another step up here. And it's early in the week. Has anyone used the tagline Bear versus Barron yet?
I like that.
Have we gotten that yet? Okay, well, we're starting it now. Bear versus Barron in maybe the biggest game of the year in the Big 12. I think you look at these two teams, especially from BYU's angle, it's one more step up, right? We've seen this in previous games, right? It's, whether it's Iowa State, whether it's Arizona, obviously, it just seems like the Utah game, they've been progressively working their way up. Now this feels like the top game of the year, and there's another huge game in a few weeks against Cincinnati, but this is another step up for their true freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, for them as a team. Can they keep the undefeated record going? All the magic that they've been having, some of these games very close, obviously, and falling behind and coming back. But Texas Tech, look, they got beat against Arizona State, but they bounced right back their last couple of games and playing excellent football. Barron Morton looked good enough last week against Kansas State. They had the run game going once again with Jacoby Williams and Cam Dickey. So huge matchup here amongst several that we're going to have at the end of the season here.
So I have Bear. You have Barron. Tell me more about Texas Tech's offense against BYU.
So I think, as usual, we've talked about this so often with Texas Tech when we talk about Barron Morton, the difference in production that you get when he's clean or when he's under pressure, because he's just not a quarterback with a ton of answers under pressure. He's got an 88 passing grade this year in a clean pocket. He's got a 50 under pressure. He's even been worse than that in the past under pressure, so he's got to make good decisions. The question for BYU is, are they going to be able to disturb him in the pocket? Texas Tech, we've talked so much about their defensive line dominating in the trenches. Their offensive line has as well. They're 10th in the nation this year in pass blocking grade and 9th in pressure rate allowed. Just an outstanding job this year so far from their offensive line. BYU, the pass rush is the one inconsistent part of their defense, right? They really get home more often when they blitz guys like Isaiah Glasker or Jack Kelly, but their defensive line doesn't necessarily get it done all the time. As a team, 67th in pass rush grade, 69th in pass rush win rate. So can their defensive line, without the addition of the blitzes, can they get to Barron Morton? Can they leave those assets in coverage to cover Caleb Douglas and Reggie Virgil and Terrence Carter and some of the threats you have in the passing game? First and foremost, it is going to be about stopping Williams and Dickey in the run game and getting them in obvious passing situations. But does Barron Morton, is he going to have too many clean pockets in this game to tear apart what is also still a very good BYU coverage unit? It's once again the lack of pass rush without blitzing that would concern me for BYU, because Barron Morton, when he is clean back there, can be very good.
Yeah, I have the same really matchup on the other side of the ball. It's all about the trenches in this one. It's going to be a war in the trenches between BYU's offensive line and Texas Tech's defensive line, as it is most years under Kalani Sitake. The strength of this BYU football team is their offensive line. 78.5 grade as a unit. That's 7th among all offensive lines in the country. BYU is 5th in the country in run blocking grade this year, and they're a top 25 team in pass blocking grade right now. Major reason why running back LJ Martin is 15th in the nation in rushing yards, and Bear Bachmeier has an 80.3 PFF grade as just a true freshman. But Texas Tech, you see right there, their defensive line has been even more dominant. The highest graded defensive line in college football this year with a 93 grade as a unit. They also lead the nation with a 96.7 team run defense grade and 91.1 pass rush grade. It's second in the country, only behind Louisville. Romello Height and David Bailey are second and third among Power 4 edge rushers in PFF grade this year. The only one who's higher than them is Miami's Ruben Bain Jr. And David Bailey also leads the entire country with 55 pressures and 12 sacks this year as well. And their interior is still pretty good. Even without Skylar Gill-Howard, who went down with an injury, A.J. Holmes Jr. right now is second among all defensive tackles in the country with a 90.6 run defense grade this year. And they still have Lee Hunter, who eats up space in the middle of that defensive line as well. BYU's offense is very dependent on his ability to win up front with their offensive line. So this war in the trenches between an outstanding offensive line from BYU and probably the best defensive line in the country in Texas Tech could decide who wins this game.
No, absolutely, and I think it's going to start with BYU. As always, look, there's just a sequence to their offense. They want to get heavy. They want to run the football with LJ Martin and even a bit with Bear Bachmeier. His legs are going to play a big part in this game, in the design game, and when it comes to scrambling, because there are times with Bailey and Height, especially off the edge, there are times they're going to win that battle. They've been unstoppable this year, and Bachmeier is going to have to stay cool under pressure and make plays with his legs. But you're absolutely right. I think it starts with getting in good down and distance situations. For BYU, it's simple. It's run game, it's play action, and Bachmeier has been one of the best play action passers in the country, and it's trying to avoid those obvious passing situations, especially against this team. 3rd and 3 in this game is going to feel a whole lot better than 3rd and 8 for this BYU offense, but that's part of their blueprint anyway. They've been believing in this offensive line all year. It's won them a lot of games, and then Bachmeier, as he's done in recent weeks, is going to have to make probably 4 or 5 special plays in the backfield, especially scrambling, if they're going to win this one.
It's the biggest game of Week 11. It's the biggest game of the year in the Big 12 Conference, a matchup between 2 top 10 teams in the country right now, Dalton. Who wins between Texas Tech and BYU?
I think I like this Texas Tech defense in this matchup, especially when you talk about stopping the run. And you know my guy Jacob Rodriguez there. Linebackers are going to play a big part in this game. We know about BYU's group that they have, but Jacob Rodriguez there I think could be the most valuable player in this game when it comes to stopping BYU on early downs and putting Bear Bachmeier in those obvious passing situations. He hasn't been in a lot of them this year, been getting better lately. We talked about that being behind against Iowa State and driving that comeback, but this is a whole different defense than Iowa State. I still think BYU's really good. I think that massive game in a few weeks against Cincinnati could decide maybe a spot in the Big 12 title game, but I'm going to take Texas Tech at home in this matchup, riding their defense to a win, 27-17.
I've got good news for BYU fans. I'm picking against BYU because obviously I think before, what was the first time I picked BYU? I picked BYU once this year.
Didn't you beat them to
Iowa State?
You picked them against Iowa State.
I got that right.
You thought you screwed them. You did.
I got that right, but every game before that I picked against BYU, and obviously I was proven wrong every single time by the Cougars. I am picking against BYU in this one. It should be a great game, though. I don't think it'll be as big of a 10-point spread as Vegas has it right now. I have Texas Tech winning 31-24. I think the Red Raiders are going to win in the trenches on both sides of the ball, offensive line and defensive line. I think Texas Tech will hand BYU their first loss of the season and also establish themselves as the clear favorite in the Big 12 right now. So Texas Tech beating BYU 31-24.